everyone that is in the room says that basically what the Israelis did, and Sharon is the leader of the party and leader of the country, tells Bush, this Iraq idea is stupid, it's not going to work, democracy doesn't work in the Middle East anyway. Iran is the threat, you should be focused on them. Bush tells them to F off, we're going into Iraq. And then Sharon says, okay, well, we didn't convince them. We might as well support our biggest allies because we never want to be on the wrong side of America. That's actually what happened. And then once a decision is made, after that point, Netanyahu testifies to Congress saying, oh, we love the war in Iraq, testifies as a citizen, not as a leader of the party. And everyone in the room corroborates this story.
Okay. I would just say I highly recommend people read Mearsheimer's book, The Israel Lobby. The guy, this world-renowned scholar, wrote a book about the most controversial topic in the world. And so he just went out of his way to back up everything he says in the book. But the whole point is that, yes, initially there were people in Sharon's camp who didn't want to they all wanted to overthrow Saddam Hussein. Let's get real. They were worried about doing it first before
Congress
you
did.
go.
We signed the Iraq Liberation Act in 98. Right. So it was bipartisan policy to push for regime change.
So that kind of helps my point. So let me just finish the point I'm making. Right, exactly. So that totally backs up what I was just saying.
Not that Israel was behind it.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, continue your point. I'm sorry.
All right, man. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Israel was totally against the war in Iraq. The whole year, AIPAC and the...
Oh my God.
I know. It's so dishonest. It's so crazy.
He can't prove that Israel was pushing all the buttons, that Israel was working America like a puppet, like a marionette, fucking pulling all of our strings. He can't prove that, so now he's going to be like, oh, Israel was completely against it. Well, they were probably in favor of it, but look, it's so funny that they said, oh yeah, that's not going to work, and turned out to be correct. Of course it's not going to work. We should have listened to them. We should have listened to Israel.
This is why I hate this sort of vibe-based conspiracy worldview, because it's impossible to ever prove wrong.
Oh, of course not. Yeah. It's so interesting the way he just hammers on it. You don't find that interesting? You don't find that intriguing?
Right.
Like, well, who cares if it's interesting or intriguing? Yeah. There's lots of things I find interesting that are not remotely true, right?
Yes. It is very
travel is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, you can draw, you could draw these connections with the Trump-Russia thing, being like, oh, look at all these weird, interesting connections. It's like, okay, but there was no there at all, right? There's nothing there. So you can't say it like there was a connection. Same thing with, people trying to do the same thing with Trump and Epstein. There's a million of these fucking things. And where that, if they're Trump supporters, it's very clearly, they can see it like crystal clear. But they have Dave Smith on this side, you just can't perceive it. Because so far there's been 4 points. There's been the money lobby, the money that's being lobbied, the clean break memo, Wesley Clark, and Israel, and what Israel said. And so in the money lobby, Coleman Hughes says that he says you can't just point to that as a one-to-one correlation.
Inconsequential, right? Because there's so many other factors.
Israel spent significantly less money than any of these other lobbies, and all these other lobbies didn't even get what the fuck they wanted. So you can't even say that that's something to point to. The clean break memo specifically said that Saddam should be deposed and replaced with a person that would be very beneficial to Israel, which didn't actually even happen. Wesley Clark didn't even read the memo. There's a million of these fucking memos. He didn't even see the memo. And also there was no explanation of what this even fucking had to do with Israel whatsoever. And then we have the most damning piece of evidence, which should be the primary evidence, is the Prime Minister of Israel supposedly said to people that were in the room and had a conversation, do not invade Iraq. That's a fucking stupid thing. Don't actually do this. So we have all these points just being like, boom, 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 boom. This is a bad idea. It's not going to work. Completely pointing away from this. And then now, because all of Dave Smith's points have been dismantled, he falls back on the whole vibe argument. Whoa, I'm going to be sarcastic. You're telling me that Israel didn't support this? Look at AIPAC. Look at all. He's going to start going back through the list of things. Look at AIPAC. Look at
You're right. It completely reset.
So dumb. It's so stupid.
Completely reset over
God.
Again.
And all because he interrupted him, which, by the way, Coleman Hughes was right to interrupt him because his response to the fact that the Prime Minister of Israel was against it is that he said, oh, well, there were other people that were in favor of it. And then Coleman Hughes says, well, there are other people in the U.S. Congress, which for some reason Dave said well, that somehow makes his point about being controlled by Israel, which it wouldn't. If, the U.S. wanted to do it for its other reasons, it had nothing to do with Israel.
Yeah. Bernie was against the war. Come on.
Neocons and the Israel government were not pushing for the war in Iraq. I mean, anyway, I'd highly recommend people go read the book. It's all backed up in there. There's tons of
But
evidence.
also, it's funny because if you recall, his entire conversation with Douglas Murray was, and which he complains about to this day endlessly, is, oh, how dare Douglas Murray do this appeal to authority and say, oh, I'm not going to debate you.
You got to go there.
Yeah, you got to go there and you got to be an expert. And here, when all the points have been dismantled, Dave Smith's only thing that he falls back on is
go to the expert.
Read this book that someone else wrote. I actually can't, articulate a defense of any of this stuff whatsoever.
Look up the expert. Go to my expert.
And also, it's insane to me to be in a conversation with someone where they dismantle all your points and then you just smugly say, oh, well, you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're
Mearsheimer disagrees with you.
Right.
You should listen to Mearsheimer. Mearsheimer.
Evidence on it. AIPAC was bragging, by the way, about how their influence over the thing.
They bought the Iraq war for dentist money?
Yeah. No, I didn't say that, actually. It's just a lot of straw manning, man.
But he just literally said that. He said it was AIPAC. Obviously, AIPAC was behind it. They were bragging about doing it. And then he brings back, well, they put in such little money. You're saying that had an influence? And then he says, how dare you strawman me? That's another thing. Like, people make these like really vague claims, and then when you get specific on it, then they hide in the vagueness of the claim. They're like, oh, you're strawmanning me. I'm actually making a claim so vague that you can't grab onto it whatsoever. So ephemeral. It's like a cloud. What am I saying? No one knows.
I like the analogy though. They bought the government for dentist money.
Yeah.
It's such a good, just like eviscerated him immediately. And he's like, oh yeah, you're a straw man. Well, it was dentist money, you bitch. What the fuck? We already went through this.
Right.
How about just like, if I don't say it, don't just like make that my argument for me. Anyway.
That is your argument, dude.
Yeah.
The fact.
Look, Coleman is not even responding now. He's just like, okay, let him have his little tissy fit.
Yeah.
Which is the way to go. It totally is the way to go.
That the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history comes to America in 2002 and advocates to Congress, whether or not the decision had been made at the executive branch, advocates to Congress that we are going to, that you ought to overthrow the regime in Iraq, also overthrow the mullahs in Iran, also overthrow Gaddafi in Libya. That is relevant, man. And the fact is,
at the time he had been prime minister for 3 years. He wasn't the longest serving anything of anything. He was testifying as a private citizen.
Did I say that he was?
But it's relevant to the impact he would have had at the time.
No, but it's also relevant that he went on to be the.
And he testified after the Iraq war decision had already been finalized by the White House. What does it matter what he said after the decision was made, Dave?
Because he's talking to Congress and trying to persuade them to support it. I don't know, man. I mean, like, it does seem like you're bending over backward to cover for a foreign country. It's just a little bit strange.
You like how he immediately goes into the hyper bad faith, like, why are you bending over backwards for the Israeli government? Obviously, something suspicious is going on here.
Well, look at the look on Coleman Hughes' face.
I know.
It's so priceless.
When it's so ridiculous too, because
the quintessential what?
Something that Dave Smith himself already agreed with and already said was that Israel said you shouldn't invade Iraq. It's stupid. But then once the Bush administration said we're going to invade Iraq, then they said, well, we want to be on the good side of America, so then we'll support you, right? And a perfect example of this is after Israel says don't invade Iraq and Bush says we are, then Netanyahu comes over after the decision has already been made and says, yeah, rah, rah, I'm going to support America, right? You should invade Iraq.
At that point, they're trying to sell it for the Bush administration.
Yes, that proves the entire point that Coleman Hughes has said. And yet for some reason, I know why, it's not for some reason, but yet in this conversation, Dave Smith keeps trying to twist it away from magically, well, actually, this show makes my argument, even though I already acknowledged your argument. Yeah. You must be a shill. You must be getting paid by the Israeli government. Ooh. Ooh.
strange. The longest serving prime minister in Israel's history comes over here and advocates that we fight multiple wars on his behalf. And that's nothing to you because the decision to fight one of them had already been made. I don't know what to say. The neoconservatives drove us into the war in Iraq. They were all publicly admitting this at the time. This wasn't a secret.
Yes, but
There's no conspiracy
not for
involved.
Israel's sake. But not for Israel's sake. We agree on the first half of that sentence.
Nothing to do with Israel. They all of the neocons just happen to write about how much they love Israel all the time. All right.
Okay, so what's your theory of?
This is like peak midwit, which I fucking hate that term. But I kind of want to say it because I know it's very triggering to the Dave Smith because they're a big fan of it. This is like kind of like a peak midwit logic. Because if you have a bunch of people in America who are neoconservatives who have an ideology,
who want something,
that's
independent
all
of
about
who else wants it.
Right. That's all about sort of, expanding U.S. influence and military power in a very specific way in the Middle East. Okay. So if you say my philosophy, my goal is to expand American influence in the Middle East, whether it be to make oil money or to help the military, or just because I have an ideology of like, I want to turn all of these Middle Eastern countries into Western democracies, right?
Yeah.
It would obviously make sense that if that's your worldview, you're going to turn to your ally in the region that already is a Western democracy. And you're going to be like, I love that country. That could help us militarily. That's actually the model for the exact thing I want. Obviously, you're going to support that and be in favor of that country.
Yeah.
And to take, but then you get this complete like reversal of causation where he's like, well, no, they obviously were just supporting Israel for some completely other reason that is some secret reason for Israel controlling the American government.
Yeah, I hate this because they take a relationship that's a natural ally relationship and they're like, no, they have their boot on your neck.
Right.
You're
when
like,
all the evidence shows,
bro, look, we're friends. We're just friends.
When all the evidence shows that actually it's the opposite, that America's controlling things. America's pulling the strings here. For right or for wrong.
Yeah, because we have more power and we do whatever we want to do. And
of course,
they're like along for the ride.
You know how like whenever a new technology comes out, everyone wants to use it for everything. It's like, oh, like new, like when people start using like, red lights, like red light therapy, they're like, well, you can use this for everything. You can regrow your hair, you can fix any disease, you can cure cancer. Like whenever some new technology, stem cells, this can be used for everything. Like whenever some new technology kind of comes out, people want to use it for everything. And then, after like some time passes, people kind of figure out, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't do this. Like it was kind of the same thing with lobotomies. When they first started doing lobotomies, they're like, well, this could be used to cure all illnesses, or shock treatment. This could be used to cure all illnesses. And then you kind of like, okay, maybe we got a little crazy. Maybe this could be used in very select and narrow cases for very specific conditions. We shouldn't have been handing out lobotomies and electroshock therapy like crazy.
Right. This doesn't work for anything.
Right.
Holy shit.
And I feel like it's the same thing with like these villains of the day or villains of the year. Same thing like Israel. Like, okay, well, because now Israel is under the hot seat, they become rolled into every single possible bad thing that America has ever done. Every bad foreign policy decision that America's ever done was actually at the behest of Israel. America and American politicians have no fucking agency. We're merely the puppet of the Israeli state. Because we're in a mindset right now where we don't like them. Like, okay.
Unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
Yes.
Tony Blair, because in my view, Tony Blair is the second most important architect of the war in Iraq. He put 40,000 troops.
And if it's just about money too, doesn't Qatar and all these other Middle Eastern countries, they have like so much more money than Saudi Arabia. They have so much more money than Israel. Why don't they just buy our politicians why haven't they been doing this for decades? Why haven't all those countries been buying our politicians off to make them all simps in Israel?
For dentist money.
The last 30, for dentist money. Why haven't they been doing that for the last 50 years? I'm just wondering why that hasn't worked. They have the money for it. They have more money than Israel does.
They should pay them to just withdraw from the whole area and they could take everything over.
Of course.
Be so easy. Hi! You just listened to a clip from the Sitch Adam show. Most of the time we stream Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we stream during the week. Come join us. You guys are going to love it. It'll be great.